Welcome everyone to Discourse. Today we're going to be discussing The Iron Grains by Jess Zapeta. This book is a fictionalized non-fiction novel exposing the story of an artist and how he relates to the last draft lottery of the United States. It depicts real accounts of true life experiences coming from the San Joaquin Valley of California to the Monterey Peninsula along the west coast of the old Fort Ord Military facility. The Iron Grains is a good recipe for peace in our lifetimes, and its outreach can be used as a guide to the future for ending all wars in our time.
Julian.
So Julian, he's our main character.
Yeah, and he gets drafted to the military to go fight in the Vietnam War.
Yeah, and didn't it say like he was like one of the last groups that was drafted before they stopped doing the draft? I'm like,
Yeah,
what luck, bro. That sucks.
That sucks.
Especially the Vietnam War.
Yeah, and then you have the Green Beret guys that have been there training you and like beating you up and psychological, and it's just crazy listening to the story about his experiences at boot camp. He's not bullied, you could say, because, boot camp, they try to train you to be ready for the psychological, for the scariness and the bullets flying at you.
Right.
So you get to see his experience there, and towards the end, right, of the boot camp, he starts not believing in the system, and I believe he gets in trouble a lot of times.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of, racial discrimination. There's a lot of struggle for Julian in particular, struggling with his identity, because he has those two different cultures, like kind of warring not only on the inside, but on the outside, right? And then also, this war, and like you said, he's struggling with this idea of, I'm here for a purpose and I'm trying to fight for like freedom and all these things, but he also sees the disillusionment of the system, right, that he's a part of.
Yeah, it just wasn't a good experience, especially being drafted. Like, he didn't volunteer. He's barely an adult. I think he loved to draw. He's an artist or paint. I believe they even made fun of him for that.
Because he technically gets like kicked out of the army. They find that he has or thinks he has like mental illness issues. So when he comes back home and he's doing his thing, a lot of people, because this was set in the 1970s, right? So to all these people, they're more like the older generation. They're kind of more older ways of thinking. So they just assume he's just like some coward. So there's a lot of verbal abuse from even just like his family members, which was so horrendous.
Yeah, it's like, sorry I got drafted.
Just sad.
But either way, just the Vietnam veterans back then, whether they were dishonorably discharged or did their time and came back or just didn't make it all the way through boot camp, they all just got treated harshly.
Yeah, it was not a good outcome.
So that's not a good start to Julian's adult life. And the book also starts off in a funeral, one of his buddies, where supposedly there's no body. So him and someone else, after the funeral, said,
go to dig him up? I'm like, dang, this is turning into some crazy mystery.
They start digging up the casket to open it up and see if he's actually in there. And there was something in there, but it wasn't him.
Yeah.
The person they were looking for, because it was already bones, right? A body that's been there for ages, and they go back up to the tombstone, and then they see with the flashlights, like, oh, this is so-and-so, like another family member.
Right.
Wouldn't they have checked before?
Yeah, who they were digging up.
Yeah.
Dude, it was crazy.
They were both just like, dang. Like, it's 3 a.m. We gotta dig this thing back over before they open the cemetery.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't know, that was interesting. Yeah. And I don't know what that tells us about Julian.
Yeah, I know.
Digging up a casket to see what body's in there, or to confirm. But I don't know, so that's just another situation he was in that kind of makes you question like what he went through or his thought process. After the military, he goes on and he tries different things, right? But there's always like a roadblock. People were just mean to him for no reason.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what we were saying, because I don't think we mentioned, but he's like a Mexican American. So I think there's a lot of racial discrimination against him. And I think also because he was so young, right? And I feel like a lot of people that kind of kept cropping up throughout the story were older people. And maybe they were all older white people. I don't know, they were just always giving him a hard time. just because he was young. He got, he was drafted, but then they kicked him out. So they're just like, oh, you're just good for nothing.
You didn't serve your country.
Yeah.
He's a different race.
Yeah.
And then I guess artists weren't thought highly about back then because people were fighting and dying, and here we have a guy that's just making pictures.
So Julian's journey is a powerful commentary on how war can strip away the innocence of youth. So we were saying earlier how he kind of started seeing the system that he was now becoming a part of, how it was failing him, and not just him, like, and everybody else, right? It kind of set the tone even for us that, like, oh no, things are not right. Even though it's America and, we live for, like, freedom and all that stuff, it's, for him, he doesn't see that. He's like, it's not like my reality now. He's living it. He's living that, like you said, like the obstacles. He's living the hate and all the stuff that's against him.
It's just crazy because especially during war, everyone's supposed to be united and fight for the right cause.
I know, especially in your own country.
Yeah.
Like,
fight for everyone's lives, and yet they're putting you down. And
yeah.
Even the military itself, you got racist, abusive.
So Julian felt like he was betrayed, right, by the government, by the military, and that everything, because he mentions, like, the American dream. He feels like that was a lie that was fed to him. And now that he's kind of going through the motions of, like, real political stuff and real military stuff, it's like, man, all that was a lie. I feel like he had hopes and dreams, and his expectations were just kind of cut short and demolished, really, right in front of his eyes. So freedom, success, identity that comes with the American dream is put under a harsh light. And through Julian's experiences, we see how that dream can become a nightmare for those who do not fit the mold. Julian's journey highlights the cultural and generational conflicts within the Mexican-American community. I guess I did kind of see that, how he was sort of being pressured into being one thing or the other, like an American or a Mexican, when he's really both.
But I guess war and other stuff makes you...
I mean, especially in the 1970s, right? We're talking about before. I feel like times are different now, but...
There was a lot of tension, a lot of racial separation, especially during time of war.
Yeah.
And you just had all these crazy groups, and even the own government itself was...
just ruled by a bunch of old, conservative, old ways of thinking type of people. So it makes sense, right?
Yeah, and as mentioned, he was talking to his doctor because he thought something was wrong with him, right? Good morning, Julian. How are you today, my friend? Are you still fighting the war? Are you winning? The doctor spoke with whimsical questioning as he smiled. Are you painting more these days, Julian? By the way, how are your paintings coming along? Do you still paint, Julian? And he continued with a multitude of questions. Julian nodded with a yes and no answers. Then he spoke. I don't believe in this war, doctor. I don't believe in politics. I believe in the military doctor because that was before he got, kicked out or left the military. And just that interaction, the doctor didn't even care. He wasn't even listening.
Yeah, he was just asking questions, question after question after question.
By the way, you want to get out? I'll sign this for you so you can leave my office.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very sad to see at a young age, barely an adult, going through all this and...
trying to go through the motions of just living a life. It definitely shows the hardships that people went through, go through. Even for him, just boot camp.
Yeah, boot camp and all the people. And then coming out and your own family's against you, like what the
I know. Heck? It's like, now you don't even know where you belong. Like, put aside the Mexican-American situation. Now I really don't know where I belong or what to do. The one positive thing, though, that Julian did have throughout the story was his friend. A small light that he had to look forward to. He wasn't always around, but when he was, he was like a positive influence on him. And that's the friend's funeral that he attended at the beginning. So, we start to connect the dots. I feel like the beginning starts off in the future and then it kind of does like a flashback of Julian's journey and knowing this friend. So at least there was that. He had that one. You always just need that one positive person in your life.
Yeah, he's the one that helped them in the military, right?
Yeah, and they had a lot in common. They were both minority groups, so...
Yeah, but people respected him because I think he did some time in
Yeah.
Vietnam and then came back and he would always walk around with a gun.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely... Yeah, he was definitely more of the senior of the two. But
Yeah.
thanks for hanging out with us, guys, and be sure to check out The Iron Grains by Jess Zepeda.